Shall I do your intros like ASMR? Hello and welcome to the More Than Muses podcast. Today I'm joined by Char Lewis, and I will allow her to introduce herself because I often make redundant introductions and then ask people to introduce themselves. So, Shah, who are you? Yeah, would you like to introduce yourself?
If you haven't guessed by now, my name's Char. So my full name is Char Lewis, but it's Charlotte. I prefer Char, less formal. I'm the rhythm guitarist in Down Not Out, and I'm the original former of the band as well.
Sweet. And you also study music production? Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's like creative music technology and sound and music production. So it's kind of like a cross between the two. It's just more of the technological side rather than performance aspects.
Cool, that's awesome. So how did you get into those things, both the band and the technical side of stuff that you're studying?
Yeah, so I essentially the band started out by I've always been interested in music from a young age. I played instruments and picked them up and dropped them down, dropped them off again, just in between. Just
don't drop the bass.
I'm just like yeet, just gone. So I met Jo in 2011 in sixth form.
Me.
Yeah, and we became friends because she laughed at a joke.
Sorry, that's moisturising.
There's moisturiser everywhere.
I wash my hands so much it hurts.
At least you're being clean.
Yes, I'd rather be clean.
It's true. We met in 2011 and we became friends because she laughed at my joke.
Mm-hmm.
We basically started just forming a few bands from there, mostly for fun, doing like covers, and then we did some original songs which were actually pretty decent for like the time we were in sixth form. We were like wannabe musicians.
Yeah, we had like two original songs, didn't we? Or one. Yeah. And a cover, and then we had one that we were going to have as an original song, but we never did anything.
Basically, that was the whole prospect of the two bands we were in sixth form. From there, I then left sixth form. Jo went off to uni. I just carried on playing music for myself and learning to play the guitar, so I was a stronger guitar player. When Jo came back, there was like a couple of years where we carried on just jamming and playing some covers together in studios. Essentially ended up just kind of doing that for a little while. Then I decided I wanted to make a proper band. So put some advertisements out online, had 5 people who were originally in the lineup, including an original singer, lead guitarist, myself, our current drummer, another bassist. It was basically just a whole different lineup.
It was literally. Yeah.
Essentially from there, we basically, our singer couldn't turn up to our first practice. So I called Jo about basically as soon as you finish work, wasn't it? It was like you just finished work, and I was like, Jo, my singer's not arrived, please can you come? And you're just like, oh my god, I've just finished work, so I have to drive over to Tewkesbury and pick you up.
I just sat down for the first time in 6 hours.
Gave Ryan the codes for the studio. Never met this man before. He could have just taken in a whole other band. So turned up with Jo like an hour late, and we bashed out some covers and we got on really well. And then Jo ended up coming a few more times after that and playing bass for us. And she was just meant to be a temporary member while we found someone new, really, because she was in another band as well. And then we all just got on so well that myself and Ryan and a few of the others had a chat, and we ended up taking Jo on permanently, and then ended up playing original songs. And now we're here. Like we ended up in 6 months releasing an EP, and we're playing like 16, 17 shows in like a short period of time. So it was crazy, like the journey, how fast it progressed. But now we have our current lineup, which is Jo, myself, Amy on bass, who replaced our last bassist, and Ryan, who's our drummer, who's one of the OG boys. He's been there from the very, very beginning.
Yeah.
And then with uni,
yeah,
essentially just, I think I didn't go to university when I finished sixth form because I wanted to go into work for a little bit and see if I could find my my niche in that area. I was having issues with jumping between jobs and just not being able to stick to one. And I was like, okay, I don't know why this is. So I was always interested in music, but everything else I just couldn't seem to stick to. I found out that I had ADHD. I got diagnosed about recently, which made a lot of sense. So I was like, okay, well, I'll do something which like is my passion. So I thought, okay, well, I had to look at the courses that were available in University of Gloucestershire so I could work alongside and still live at home. Ended up settling on creative music technology, which means that I can then produce tracks, do live sound engineering. So now, if anyone needs a sound tech at one of our shows, I know if you're not doing a very good job, and I can call you out. So, but yeah, it's mostly just to get behind the whole sound tech and that side of it, rather than just being on stage. I can do a bit of both. So it's just multi-talent across the whole sector rather than just being one area.
Yeah, it's always nice to have knowledge in various like areas, and it can be helpful, like just in general, can't it, to have a little bit of that knowledge.
Yeah, it's definitely useful to have like terminology and stuff as well, so that when people start talking to you with certain terminology, you're not just stood staring into space, just wondering what's going on.
Yeah. And especially, I feel like it's an assumption, of course, but it's good to know that as a woman as well. So if you were at a gig and like a sound guy was being condescending to you, or
know all about
if
that.
but like if you were in like a situation where they're saying something to you and you don't understand the terminology, I feel like they would be harder on you than they would if a man didn't understand what they were talking about.
Yeah, I feel like it's that bro aspect of, oh, don't worry, bro, I've got you, bro. We just approve, like, we expect you to know what you're talking about. I'm a humble female, I don't understand.
A man can be like, oh, I'm self-taught, so I just play. Whereas if a girl does, it's like, you're not a real musician. And
I basically touched on that like later on, which I'll go into. We can have a nice little.
We'll circle back around to that.
If it seems like I'm pausing every now and again, I'm just drinking a nice cup of tea.
Oh, that's fine.
I know you can't see me, but I am drinking out of a Christmas cup, which is very festive.
I've got my Adventure Time mug, which isn't very festive. I should have got my Nightmare Before Christmas mug, but it's big. What I was. I didn't catch all of that, but I can understand what the implications were.
That's being innocent. I said there's nothing wrong with a big cuppa.
Okay. You're not wrong. What I was going to say, I was going to circle back around to your ADHD and the job stuff. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I've done a little bit of research just to be a good friend. And I know even if you don't have ADHD, it's difficult to muster up passion and motivation for something that you just don't care about. So if you're working jobs where you just have to go every day, you don't even like it, you don't find any interest in it, you're not going to be able to stick to that. So especially if you have ADHD, like finding something that you are actually passionate about and motivated to do, you're more likely to be able to like actually focus on it and regulate that attention to it more appropriately than something that you're forced to do.
There's a lot of stigma with ADHD that's just, I'm so random and hyperactive and I can't concentrate. And it's partly that, but also like Jo said, you have a lot of drive to do things which you're passionate about. So you find a lot of ADHD people are creative. So Jack Barrowcat from More Time Low has ADHD. Brendan Urie has ADHD.
Yeah.
And
Victoria Pedretti, the actress from the Haunting stuff on Netflix, she has ADD apparently.
It wouldn't surprise me if Bonnie from Standard Atlantic.
I think Hannah from Hot Milk does. I think she said, but I'm not sure if she's like officially or just was like joking.
But you've got.
But I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't. It's a very, very. You're more likely to become creative if you are on the ADHD and Asperger's level. So one thing I'd say is don't be afraid to speak out about it, because I did. So the band were really supportive, which we knew I was having problems for a while, and then when I found out that, because I'm happy to talk about it, so I'm on quite a high spectrum of it, because I'm on I scored 9 out of 10 on the test, which is the highest results I ever scored. Let's go. But I'd say just speak about it if you are concerned, because it is a serious topic, obviously. Just speak about it, but it can really hinder you. Yeah.
And you think that there's something wrong with you personally, like you might think you're lazy or that you're just not capable, and that's not the case. You just need those accommodations.
And honestly, ADHD people are some of the most intelligent, passionate people you'll ever meet.
Yeah, because when you find something that you're interested in, that hyper focus kicks in, and you're you're an expert.
I've been in like libraries with Jo where I've not been interested in a topic before, and she's just seen me just zone out. And I'm like, she's been in like a room with me while I've been on like a module which I'm obsessed with, and I've spent like 8 hours solid just staring at my computer screen, and she can't get 2 words out of me. So
yeah,
it's
that's what I end up like sometimes when I'm editing.
Yeah.
We have no kind of concept of the passing of time, whether or not you're hungry or thirsty or need the toilet. You're just like, you look up and you're like, oh, it's dark. I've been here for 5 hours.
You're basically a sim at that point.
Yeah. When you just get a sim to like write a novel or something, and then you're using cheats so they don't have any needs. I think they did that actually on like in The Sims 2. There was like on one of the expansion packs, they had a thing where if it was like a certain hobby or something that they were passionate about, they could like get in the zone. Their needs would just stay the same for as long as they were doing the activity. And I was like,
why is that a mood?
Isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say honestly, yeah. Well, on like a serious note, is if you feel like you do have anything like ADHD or autism, go and speak to your GP, because they're the best people to give you advice. Obviously, do some research, but go and speak to your GP, because it is important. But also, don't let it hinder you, because I've done really well with the band and these guys, and you know, I'm scoring firsts on my results in first year and going into second year now. So it's definitely worth getting checked out if you are worried, but definitely don't let it hinder you, because it's a strength, not a weakness. It's
especially overlooked in women as well.
Mm-hmm. In like young, so it's seen as
a lot of kids don't get picked up on it when they're girls.
Yeah, so it's seen as kind of a when I was growing up, I wasn't picked up on because they thought it was to do with anger issues and emotional difficulties, because my dad left when I was young, and that's how they see it. And then they just see it as, oh, you're a chatterbox because you talk in school or you're shy.
Yeah, I was going to say, usually with young girls, the hyperactivity has usually like shows itself in talking a lot and stuff like that. And because of the stereotype that girls talk a lot, it's completely overlooked. Whereas a lot of times the hyperactivity in boys is physical hyperactivity. But yeah, I think a lot of sometimes the signs of it are kind of misconstrued or overlooked because they show themselves in different ways in different people. And also, you know, as we know, there's a lot of crossover with different symptoms that can be different things. So it can be really hard just to pick up on anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I just say, definitely give it a go. Don't feel like you can't. And if you do have any questions or whatever, I mean, just have a quick Google or speak to people online. If you want to speak to me about it, you can message me. I'm happy to talk to anyone about it, because I'm happy with who I am now. I've accepted it. It's a strength, not a weakness. And yeah, hold meaning behind, down, not out. Let's go.
Harnessed correctly, it's a superpower.
It is, yeah. I can do anything when I set my mind to it. As crazy as that sounds, but
yeah, I agree, definitely. If that's something that you think that you might possibly have, I mean, the worst thing that can happen if you go to your doctor about it is they say you don't have it. Like, you've got nothing to lose trying to find out if that's something, if you're struggling with any of the things that are associated with it. It's always best to know, just in case, because it can really take its toll on you if it's hindering.
The one thing I would say is just don't look at random sources on Google. So don't go looking at things people have put on Reddit. Go and look at the proper NHS website. Go and look at like reliable sources, because they're where you're going to get credible information from, not someone with the name Barrel Runner 69 who is on Reddit who says my son has ADHD because he runs around the garden. Don't do that, because it's not.
I would add to that, start with the NHS, but then look more into some of the symptoms that they list, because they can be really vague.
Yeah.
So it might be something that you might have a symptom, but the way it's phrased in the thing might make you think of something else, whereas that it could actually fall under that. So do your research, but base it on the actual medical NHS, etc. Data. I think it's good to kind of bring awareness to that, because women are really underdiagnosed or misdiagnosed when it comes to stuff like ADHD and autism. Definitely. I think that's something people need to be aware of. So back to your course, let's talk about the gender balance, because obviously music tech isn't known for being super female prominent.
Yeah, so in our course, we have about 14 people in total, I think. There's not a lot of people in the course in general. In our year, obviously, I can't say about above and below. I think the year above, as far as I'm aware, doesn't have any women on the course in tech. I think it's all boys. I think.
That doesn't sound like a good time for me.
Yeah, the year below I know has a few women in it, but our year, so I'm in year 2 now, and it's 14 people on our course with 2 girls, which is myself and then a separate girl as well. There used to be 3, however, she changed courses at the beginning of 2nd year, and she's now doing a crime course, like criminology or something like that.
Fair enough. Would you say? I was going to say, would you say? I mean, we know that the lecturers there's one female lecturer in however many music ones. Would you reckon that has an effect as well on the motivation, or not motivation, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not
overly sure, because when I signed up for the course, I wasn't actually made aware who was going to be teaching what. So it wasn't a case of that they said, oh, you're going to have, when they wouldn't obviously said you're having a man for this, and this, but they didn't mention anyone by name. So it wasn't like, oh, you'd have Marcus for this, you're not going to have so-and-so for this, so-and-so for this. They just say, these are the modules we're taking. Yeah. So it wasn't until kind of when we started taking it, I noticed, wow, all of first year, all of our lecturers are male. 2nd year, we only have 1 female, and she's not a lecturer. She's like a, what are they called? Someone who comes into lectures and they speak to them, but they're not actually a lecturer. They just kind of teach classes.
Yeah, I can't think what the word is, but yeah, I know.
Yeah,
what you mean.
but yeah, she does that, and that's the only female one we've got this year. It may change next year as well, but I think just in terms of it, I think it's just a case of a lot of tech isn't seen as a female job. So especially with Down Out, we've played shows, we've only ever had 1 female sound technician.
Yeah,
and that was since she did a really good job as well.
She's probably one of the only ones I've seen just in general, like going to gigs as well.
Exactly. So
yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, so it is mostly seen as like a male-dominated kind of job sector, I guess. But it depends on where you want to go into, because if you do live sound, you're going to see more men. But then if you go into like other stuff such as like visual creating, so like audio visual, you might find more women in there, for example. But I wouldn't know personally. But there's only 2 women out of the 14 people on our course, and the rest are all men, which is, I don't know. I think in my first year, I was a little bit anxious about it, because you don't know how people are going to react, and it's a mix of different age groups, and you don't know if people are going to be like, oh, why are you here? But no, like everyone on our course is really supportive as well, which is nice.
Generally, you would hope a combination of, the lecturers should be professional enough for that not to happen, not to matter. I mean, and the people that are coming onto the course should be mature enough.
You'd hope
to be able to just actually, treat people like people and treat them with respect.
You'd hope, yeah.
You would hope.
Say, yeah, it's one of those things which don't let it bother you. So when you go to look at university, if you go and look at a course and you're worried about the gender balance, I'd say don't look at it as a case of, I can't do this because there's going to be more boys than girls, because you're going to have different courses which have different things. So hair and beauty is always going to have likely more females than males. Like when you go into building and mechanics and stuff, it's like you're going to have more males. You don't know. So don't let it hinder you. If you want to do something, you're determined to do it, go for it. Because like I said, I'm friends with like most of the people. I say most of the people, or I get on with everyone on our course. But like they're all really lovely and supportive, and we all come from different backgrounds. Some are DJs, some are live performers, some do sound editing. So
yeah, no, that's exactly it. Like you're all there for the same reason, really. So you've got that kind of solidarity and community thing. And if anybody's being a dick, they're going to be in the minority most likely. So
they're going to get shouted at. I mean, probably by me. So
I think music tech is just one of those jobs where, I don't know, women are assumed not to be very good with technology. It's the same with like IT and programming and stuff like that, and engineering. like those are the sort of jobs that people seem to associate with men.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is just like left over from more misogynistic times where women weren't allowed to work. And did you know, I learned this the other day, I need to verify this, but apparently women couldn't have their own bank accounts until the 70s.
What?
Independent from like their husband. Hence why less people got divorced back then, because they didn't have their own financial stability outside of their marriage.
That's insane.
Isn't it disgusting?
That's... Oh, I was making a joke on the phone to Ben earlier on. I was literally saying that when I walk on stage in a t-shirt and jeans, the men are like, "Oh, she's a witch," but that's actually crazy.
Oh my God, yeah. Women in the 1600s. I had a thought. Witch!
A witch! Burn her at stake. She's not allowed to have thoughts.
Thoughts and feelings and opinions from a woman.
Of her own? No!
That she didn't take from a man.
I think not.
God forbid. Literally. He's going to hell. So I kind of want to have a throwback discussion, actually, because I was thinking about our sixth form music class. And it's something that obviously we can both speak to. How it was actually, I mean, obviously there were a lot of boys, but there were quite a few girls in our class as well. And our teacher, Miss Austin, was also
Legend.
obviously, yes, amazing, icon, love her. I just found that, like, I feel like that's kind of a common thread for me personally, is that I've never, so in previous bands, I've never been in a band with just all boys and me. I've always been in bands, whether they were like not serious ones from when I was like much younger, or when we started doing stuff, or The More You Know as well. I've literally never been in a band where it's all men and me. And I mean, it's not ever anything I've actively sought out. I think it's just been lucky that me and other women like me who are interested in music and interested in playing instruments and stuff have gravitated towards each other. But it was never a case of like, oh, we're both girls, so we should definitely do this. It's just been a case of we've had similar interests. We both happen to be girls, or all happen to be girls, and have just decided that as something we were going to do together. And we never had any sort of notion that we couldn't do that.
I think when Amy joined, did we specify that we were a mixed gender group then? I don't think we did. I think we just said we were a pop punk band.
I can't remember, but obviously she could look at our social medias and stuff, so she knew when she looked. But I can't remember when we advertised if we did or not. But
yeah, she joined, and I mean, she reached out to us online, and we had a chat with her, and we just kind of gave her a few like auditions, and then she joined right away because she fit in really well. And even Ryan, like, well, then again, Ryan's like a really just lovely, genuine bloke. Like, you're not going to meet anyone as supportive as him. But
he doesn't give a shit about this like gender shit. He's like,
exactly. He met her.
He never said
passionate.
anything about. No. Like, I've never felt like insecure in any way about my gender because of Ryan. And in relation to music,
at me, but that's just because of my guitar playing.
That's completely equal opportunity.
You just throw them at anyone.
Yeah,
even people at gigs. I think like you said, like it's on our sixth form course we did have like about 4 or 5.
I can remember. Me and you obviously, and then I can remember at least 3 other girls.
Yeah, same.
And then I can't think how many boys there were, but there weren't that many more boys than us.
I think 4, because it was quite a small class.
Yeah, it was actually quite balanced. And we were all kind of doing different subsections, and we were combined years as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was good. I liked that. And do you reckon, I don't know, do you reckon maybe the fact that we had a female teacher made girls feel more comfortable being in that class? And because she was just so chill as well. Like, I can't say, like, if Miss Austin had been a man instead, but was still exactly just as chill, I think that would also, have an impact. But some music teachers can be really elitist or like up their own asses, can't they?
She definitely seemed to encourage. She encouraged a lot of girls, definitely, for sure. Because I obviously had her from 2007 when I joined like secondary school,
I didn't meet her
all the
until
way up.
sixth form. So.
No, so I had her like my whole life, and she basically became my second mum. She openly said that to my mum as well. She was like, Charlotte is like my adoptive daughter. I was
That's
like,
it.
yes.
Yeah, that was kind of her role, wasn't it? Like she would take in those the needies.
She's like our surrogate mother.
Yeah, it's the fact that like we had like non-music students who felt safe to come and hang out like at lunch or whatever or break.
She was just
come to the music
so
room.
lovely.
Yeah,
she's a national treasure, and the Queen should give her like an OBE or something.
Yeah, she deserves some sort of title.
She does. Queen.
Love her.
She drops her crown.
Would you like to talk about any women in your life who you consider as maybe role models or who encouraged your interest in music?
Yeah, so essentially my mum was a big like kind of support growing up. So she definitely encouraged me a lot. Which, sorry, your face, Joe's just crying. Like,
got like a really tickly throat.
It's just so emotional, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't keep my emotions to myself. I've run out of bottles.
Need to reuse them. But yeah, my mum was really supportive growing up. So from when I was a youth, I nearly said then. I'm tired. When I was a youth.
When I was a young boy.
When I was
my mother took me into the city to see a marching band.
Basically, yeah. She said, "Char, when you grow up," she always said to me, guitar. She bought me I think the first guitar she bought me when I was younger, which is like my acoustic one, which is in the back bedroom, and then she bought me an electric guitar for like my 18th birthday or 16th, one of them, which is like my pink Fender. She's always been really supportive of just go out and play and do what you want as long as it makes you happy. And she's always been like, your stuff sounds really good, or your guitar's coming along. And she's come to Down Out shows and come and said hello to the band after. We stand Lisa.
We stand Lisa in this house.
Definitely. Like, you should buy t-shirts which say we support Lisa, because
I stand her so much that I took her name as my middle one.
It's true, and that's Joe changed it by default.
The real reason.
And then aside from her, Austin, which, as we spoke about, from 2007 to 2014 when we had her, she was a massive support. So she always said to me, like, you can do anything and you're naturally talented and you've got the thing to go forward and do it. And when I left sixth form and we formed Down That Out, she came to a few shows and she spoke to me after, and she spoke to Alex as well, and she said, I'm so proud of Char, because if you saw how timid and shy she was in secondary school and sixth form, where she wouldn't want to stand on a stage, and then now she's playing to like 200 people on a stage.
Now she's like, attention on me, please.
Knee drops at like really relevant points. I'm just like, look at me go. Come off stage and I'm the most awkward person you'll ever meet. When Lavender comes on, am I doing a knee drop? And I'm like, hello. So one day you're going to surprise me and we're going to do a knee drop in synchronization. I'm going to be like, oh, it was you.
When I get my Britney Spears mic, that's when it'll happen. I'll be unstoppable when I get my headset.
I can't wait for it. I'm going to grab your file like in that video. Like, yes, Britney. So, but yeah, Austin was a massive support growing up. And then in music wise, I kind of looked up towards, I like wrote out some basic things. And I basically said that growing up, I don't remember a lot of female bands who inspired me.
There weren't that many around, honestly, in the genres that we like. The only one I can really think of when I was a kid was like Avril Lavigne. Yeah,
Avril Lavigne. So I liked her when I was growing up, but I never really looked at her as kind of like an inspiration. Now I'm older, I kind of see it, but at the time I was just like, she's cool. I like her punk trousers.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, she probably helped me realize that I could do that.
She definitely shaped like my music. So, but I think her Pink as well, like Pink was one.
Yeah, Pink's quite alternative, isn't she? For an artist, I mean.
Yeah, and then I had like Paramore and Tonight Alive are ones which I remember when I was like slightly older, so like in my teen years when I was really starting to become a musician, starting to do like play guitar properly. Like it was Paramore and Tonight Alive. But I even said to you, like, coming into later years, Stand Atlantic in the past few years now have shaped it and they've been an inspiration. But when I was younger, because it wasn't many really female artists to look up to, I kind of went towards the likes of like artists. So Brendan Urie, all of the lads from Green Day, so Billy, Trey and Mike, and they were all encouraging gender equality in Green Day, just in case they watch this and they want shout out.
I was going to say, I like that you listed their names like you knew them.
It's because I'm like reading at the same time, so I'm just like, yes, I will read it. But they really encourage gender equality, so they're always like, women should be in the front of music. Which
they were the same with like taking LGBT bands on tour back in the 90s. Like they took Pansy Division out on tour.
Yeah, they shaped kind of like the way I wanted to go towards music, because they made me feel like you can do it. Basically, is what it comes down to. Because they said, don't worry about what your gender is, don't worry about your mental health, don't worry about your sexuality. If you want to go for something, then go for it. And they've always been really supportive, and they're just really just lovely people, because not everyone in genres that you see, because you hear a lot of negative stuff about bands, it's very rare you hear positive stuff that actually comes out and say like, oh, Billy Joe Armstrong has said that he's a massive fan of Billie Eilish, and they've done stuff together and they're really big fans, and he's supportive of her, and he's been like, I want to get females in this and this, I want to set up a gig with all females, and I want to swap roles. So they did the American Idiot on Broadway, and he wanted to swap roles so that there's a female actually playing the role of Jimmy. I nearly said Johnny. Good old Johnny.
I don't know, I like completely blanked, and then I was like, it's Jimmy.
It's Jimmy.
I was like running through the songs. I was like, I know the name is in there.
I was like, Johnny. It's not Johnny, it's Jimmy. It's so, but they want to keep it the same, so it's still going to be Jimmy, I think, and they just want to have like a female playing it, which is really cool.
A girl could be called Jimmy. Might be.
So I want to see it, and I want to see them do it, and it's going to be sick. But I think growing up, the only ones I can really remember off the top of my head, like a Paramore and Tonight Alive, who were around when I was still forming who I was identity-wise.
And even then with them, they're in kind of the expected roles. Like I know they do play instruments, but they don't do it so much on stage. So it's always the assumption that if a woman is in the band, she's the singer.
Yeah.
But we went to see the Somerset, and they had a female drummer, and she's a sick drummer.
She's so sick.
She's so good. I'm so sad that they broke up. But even just like that was something that I took notice of them because of that. Because I was like, you don't often see a girl in the band who isn't the singer and actually is playing an instrument as like instead of or as well. So that intrigued me about them. And when we went to see Courage My Love as well, I think
that's who I was just thinking of.
Yeah, we met them and they were so nice.
Yeah, for sure. I think as well, who else is it? We Are the In Crowd as well. They're definitely like a big one as well, because they're just Watic. They're just, I don't know. I think, but like you said, it's always a case of that there's always a female singer. You don't really, that's why with Down and Out, when we're on the stage and it's me, you and Amy at the front, and then just Ryan in the back like waving, it's like people are always shocked because they're like, oh, you rarely see this. And the nicest thing which we had, like seeing as how we're talking about role models and inspirations, was when one of our fans brought her daughter to the show, because she wanted to show her daughter that you can be in a band and play guitar as a woman. And that was really, really nice, because that warmed my heart a little bit, because she was like, I want her to look up to people. And I was like, I feel like a little bit like a role model myself right now, and that's really nice. So,
I'm 5 foot. Nobody looks up to me.
Everyone looks up to me.
We've probably already covered it, but like, what is your experience, or how has your experience been being in a band as a woman? Not that you know what it's like to be in a band as a man, but
sometimes I just do it for fun. I just dress up and I'm just like, hey guys, it's Nicole, and I just strip off and they're just like, oh, a woman.
I mean, drag is big now, so
yeah,
fine.
But it's like reverse drag. Is that? I don't know.
You'd be a drag king instead.
That is my goal in life now. I could pull it off.
It looks fun as fuck. I'd love to do it.
We should do it.
We should be drag kings.
We should do it.
Yeah. Make like a DNA video of like the three. We all try. All 4 of us should try drag.
With experiences with being a woman in a band, though, I think music-wise, it's typically been okay. Like, I have had people come up to me and be shocked that I'm a woman who plays guitar, who's self-taught. So like we said earlier on, it's a case of that they're like, oh, so where did you have lessons? You're really good. And I'm like, I didn't. And they're like, oh, shock. And I'm like, I just taught myself with like a bit of help from Joe and, stuff. I never really had any lessons, because I've always been, which again falls back to how your brain works. So I can process information differently, and, I can do that. So I'm self-taught on every instrument I know. But I think a lot of the time, it's mostly been okay. Like, you do find that with with shows which we play in, a lot of the lineup we have will be Down Not Out, which is 3 girls, 1 boy, fine. But then the other bands on the set will just be all guys, unless it's a specific event, which is like girls' event or there's an event.
Although we have had I think our Bristol gig, pretty much all of us.
That's the one I was thinking of. I had a female in the band.
And when we played with, I'm just looking at the poster, so I've just remembered when we played with Junior as well, Cupcake Diaz.
There's a few exceptions which are like that, but a lot of the time it is just us and then men. That sounds like just men. I've never really had any judgment upon playing or anything like that. I have said before, and I'll say it again, there's been a few times where we've had people at shows who have questioned my ability to carry an amplifier. What I would like to say to this is if you see a woman who is walking through a pub carrying a guitar, a backpack, and an amp, the chances are she plays guitar, she's in a band, and she does it regularly. You don't need to ask the person who she's with why they're not carrying the amp for her.
Unless she straight up looks like she's struggling, leave her alone.
If she's nearly dropping it on the floor, then by all means, feel free to offer or ask someone else when they're not helping. But if someone's walking with me and I'm looking like I'm carrying an amplifier fine, which is on my shoulder, may I add, and I'm looking fine with it, I am strong enough to carry it. I do it on a regular basis. And I know that my frail female arms may look like I can't hold an amp.
But it's not like, I know you're talking about the time that you were with Alex, and it's not like Alex looks any stronger than you. Like, no offense to him, but he's a skinny boy.
So Alex is about the same height as me. He's about the same build. That is, and if you can think that he can carry it, why can't I? So
exactly. Like, I understand if he looked stronger than you or something, but
I get that, but he doesn't. And you don't know what's going on with people, so don't start with that. But it's that and another time where we've been, which Joe can talk about this as well, where we had a sound check and it was the same show. The sound engineer was just a bit of a dick towards the women.
He was a dickhead,
fine. Like, he was okay towards the men. Like, he was like having like, oh, bro, sick bass, bro, and stuff like that. But then with the women, he was just like...
And the thing is, if it hadn't been for that, I would have just assumed he was in a bad mood or something.
Yeah, it was definitely a case.
There was a noticeable difference.
He did it towards me and you. He did it towards a singer in your band.
Yeah, he said, he was pretty rude to Claire.
He told me to lift an amplifier, not like a head, like a amplifier,
a cab,
big cab. So like it was about half the height of me, so it's about 3 foot.
Yeah, it was probably about my height, or like up to my shoulders.
Literally,
or something.
Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, just lift it on stage," and I'm like, "What? I wouldn't do that if I was a man. If I was a woman, I wouldn't do that on my own.
It's not safe.
Unless you know what you're doing, it's not safe." And he just like ragged it up on stage on his own because I said, "Can you help me?" And in the end, he just ragged it on stage on his own. It was like, wasn't that hard? I'm like, okay, then. Wow, if you put your back out, that's a you problem.
That sounds like sounds like you're going to cause yourself more problems than you're going to cause me, mate.
Yeah. So that was. But aside from that, I've never really had any kind of aims or. The one thing I will mention that I've said on here as well is that a lot of people who, when women record videos and put them on YouTube, you do have people who say you get more views because you're a woman who's playing a guitar and you were doing it for attention.
Yeah,
you may get some people who do that, but you get that across both genders. It's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, well, the thing is as well, I guess you might get more attention because it's not as common as well. But like, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's using what you've been dealt to your advantage. And I would say, I don't know, like, I know personally I am more likely to say check out a band if they've got a female member. But that's just because you don't see it as often. And so that's something that I want to check out, and then if I like it, I want to support it, you know?
No, I know what you mean.
I was thinking when you were speaking before, thinking.
Dangerous.
It's not very feminine.
It's not very feminist of you, Jo. Feminine.
I mean, that wasn't a very feminist comment of me either, but I was joking. Just to be clear, in case anybody is in any doubt. I was thinking about how we might be at an advantage because we're not particularly feminine. Like, we're quite tomboyish. We're a little bit more kind of, I don't know, more androgynous or more masculine presenting than like more feminine girls.
I'm definitely a hipster. I say I'm not, but there's no point in denying it anymore, except who I am.
We all are. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's possible that we're a more palatable version of women playing music than if we were super feminine.
Yeah.
Because
I think
we're like,
because of
you're one of the boys.
Well, because of the like genre we're in as well, is if you look at like the bands which we spoke about, so like Paramore, Stand Atlantic, all of those guys, like they all dress the same way as us. So it is all like baggier clothes, jeans, skinny jeans, Vans, cats, beanies. It is all the same look.
Yeah. And some of that's subculture. And then you got to think that some of it is also like, you need to wear something comfortable on stage, really, more comfortable than some more feminine clothing can be. And also like safety of like not being groped or just being looked at inappropriately. Like people will take that as an invitation, unfortunately, if you're dressed maybe more in a more revealing way or a more feminine way than if you're in jeans and a t-shirt. And it's not like strict. Obviously people will be gross regardless, but some people might be like, oh well, she was dressed like that, so what do you expect?
My dog could
I expect some fucking respect. It's fine.
Sorry, my dog's barking in the background, so I was just trying to... But yeah, I mean, we've had it at shows before where you had to literally call that guy out because he was like, I'm going to follow you home to me. And you were like, no. So you are going to get people who are going to be creepy regardless. But I
listen to a lot of country female artists singing about killing men. So just watch yourself. Yeah.
You're always more likely to get kind of certain attention in certain places of industry as well in the audio business. So I'm friends with someone who creates a different type of audios, and she gets a lot of people online who feel the need to make them think that they're going out with her, and she gets weird messages which are creepy. So but whereas if you're in a band and you create music, it's a different type of thing, so you get different attention on different aspects. Well,
you have the barrier. We have the barrier of music and instruments and singing, whereas she makes stuff where she's speaking, doesn't she? So
so you definitely
that's
do get
considered a lot more personal. Even if she's playing like a role or a character, they're hearing her voice and they're associating that with her and her feelings and her.
It's important just to, regardless to whether you're listening to music and you think a song's about you, or listening to an audio and you think that someone's got feelings towards you, it's important to be able to tell facts from reality. So like if you think that something
is a social relationship, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So it's
thinking somebody just because you spend a lot of time watching them or listening to them, but you don't know them.
So just because someone makes an audio or writes a song that you think, oh, I really relate to this, or this is about me, or this person's writing the song and they're in love with me, or this person's written this and they want to speak to me through this audio because they're scared to. It's not the case. So don't be creepy and message them, because even if it was the case, I doubt they tell you. Don't go reaching out to people and being like, if they don't want you to, don't try forcing yourself on someone in any sense, because it's not right.
Yeah, agreed. So we kind of covered, I mean, I guess this is more from like a fan point of view, but how do you find it being a girl or being a woman? I still adjust to the fact that we are technically adults.
I'm not.
No, me either. So yeah, we've spoken about it in the sense of, being an active member of producing music, making music, and being in a band and stuff. But what about, I guess, being a fan of rock and pop punk and those sorts of genres? How's that been impacted by being a woman? Do you think, if it has at all?
I think going to shows it depends on what band you go to see. So if you go to see a band like All Time Low or Panic at the Disco, and there's going to be more female fans there, just because that's the type of audience they have. Whereas if you go and see bands like Green Day and Rancid,
it's at least going to be quite balanced.
Yeah. So Green Day and Rancid have a lot more of a gender balance, if not more men, depending on what time you go, because it's a heavier type of music and there's more men who are interested in it. And also I think, even though some girls want to get involved in mosh pits and stuff, you do find it if you're a woman and you go to a show and you go to a front and you do feel like you're being shoved about a lot. And if you can't take that, it's quite... I've seen shows where the lead singer has literally stopped and said to people, stop doing that, stop pushing them around. You are pushing that woman far too hard. Stop it. I mean, Billie Joe Armstrong once drop kicked a guy in the face because he kept pushing this woman into the barrier and she was uncomfortable, and he told him to stop, and then this guy swore at him, so he just drop kicked him in the face, which I could get behind. Let's go.
Yeah, I support that.
So yeah, I mean, it's not cool. Like Brendan Urie has done similar things where people have been harassing women, and he's had words of them as well. So it is definitely a case of, you do always have that thing of, you don't want to be ragged about as much as a guy does, because they don't have brain cells sometimes, and they just want to jump in the middle of a pile-on, which, you know, it's, yeah, not all women are like that. Not all women want to be reference sample and stuff. Some people just want to go to the front for a decent show.
Yeah.
And some people are like Joe, and they're shorter and they want to have a decent view, which it does definitely. I think it's why you've had like, men like step in front of you at shows and just like fully block your view, even though you're like,
literally 9 times out of 10, if I go to a show, I find a good spot where I can see, and absolutely no regard for my view. Like the tallest man in the venue will stand in front of me.
Yeah, and it's like,
but then I've had a few shows where people have been like, "Oh, I'm sorry, like, do you want to go in front of me or whatever?" And
yeah,
I feel like there needs to be rights for short music fans. I remember there's a venue, I think it might be in London. There's a venue that's got like a sloped floor, but it's sloped in such a way that people at the back can still see over people in the front. I think it's a really good idea, though.
Definitely. Yeah, I think most of the time it's been pretty chill. Obviously, you do have the fear of being spiked and stuff, and I think people at shows are worried about being followed out or being harassed by men if they go alone. But I think that's a fear everywhere, because unfortunately it is one of those things that women do get more spikings than men, which is wrong and it's not cool, but it does happen.
Yeah, well, I think we generally, the sort of shows that we go to are, you know, they're quite balanced. You know, I've never had any specific issues related to my gender at a show that I can think of. And I've never had, I'm thinking about like outside of gigs as well, like just being a music fan. I know, you know, I was a fan of a lot of rock music pretty young, so like literally like year 7, etc. And I didn't get shit for it from like the boys who also liked that stuff, or the people I was friends with who also liked that stuff. But got the classic like emo kid, goth kid, the other kids turned their nose up at you because they were all chavs too.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And you have to like this kind of music, and if you don't, you're weird. It's like, you can just like whatever you want. Like,
the goth emo kids were in the Addams Family of the normal people.
Yeah. And it's just like, why are you restricting yourself? Just like whatever you like.
Yeah.
But then there was that same problem with the rock kids as well, where a lot of them were like, but you know, you like this, so you can't also like pop. I'm like, maybe I want to like pop.
Yeah, it's
maybe I want to like pop as well.
A lot of that's gone. Luckily, people get older and then they start listening to bands which you were listening to in school that you got bullied for, and it's like,
yeah, like My Chemical Romance and Paramore and Fall Out Boy are all fucking
cool
mainstream now. Pisses me off. I feel like I've gone in like the complete opposite direction, where it's like there was a time where I was like restricted and judged for what I listened to, in terms of like people who didn't listen to rock shamed me for listening to rock, and then people who did listen to rock shamed me if I wanted to listen to anything else. So I've just gone so far in the opposite direction, where I'm like, I will listen to fucking everything and anything. I don't believe in guilty pleasures. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Like aggressively. So I'm like, no, I will listen to whatever the fuck I want to listen to. Thank you. And yeah, we've kind of talked about this in talking about that before, but like differences in gender for different genres and subgenres and stuff like that. And like, if you notice a difference between, I don't know, like the vibe at a show or the fan base of bands that have women in them, whether that has an effect on the balance of the audience.
I think like as we said before, you do tend to have like more females in pop and classical and stuff than you can name, rather than in pop punk. The feel of the shows like are slightly different. I've not really been to many pop shows, but I think when you go, it's just kind of got a different vibe because you get different people there.
Yeah. You tend to have younger people at pop shows as well. Younger girls mostly.
You get different feels to where.
I'm trying to think what pop shows I've been to.
Somerset, I'd say, was kind of poppy. Charlie XCX when she supported Fall Out Boy.
That was Paramore, but yeah. But no, I think people were kind of, I don't know, I think people were quite rude to Charlie XCX.
It's because they didn't know who she was until she brought out that song that was I Don't Care, I Love It, because that's the only one that people knew, which was a bit shitty of them.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that you would respect that this band that you love, that you've come to see, you would respect the support acts that they've deemed worthy to come on tour with them, but...
Which is always rude when people like don't turn up to. I try and be there for opening act when I can. Obviously there's a few times when you can't or you've got other stuff going on, but I try to be there for opening act because the band have brought them with them, and it is a strong sign of respect. So it is annoying when you go in and you see, especially when the first band is quite local and they've picked up like this little local band. So if, for example, if like Standard Atlantic, That's the Dream, came like took us with them on tour around the UK, and people didn't turn up to see us, but then turned up to see the rest of it, I would feel quite disheartened because it feels like, well, are we not good enough for your time? Which is, that's not nice. But I think mostly it is, you can tell the difference slightly, but I've not really been to many shows to be able to comment on how they feel and stuff.
Yeah, well, I have been to a couple like properly pop shows like Little Mix and, well, that's probably the main one. I went to see Tori Kelly. She's quite pop, but she's a bit R&B, but I definitely did notice that it was more women at those shows. But I don't think that's necessarily... It's a tough one because they do have more women in their audience. But, you know, pop is really painted as this woman thing to like. Yeah. So, you know, and I don't know if it's because, like, pop isn't taken as seriously as a genre anyway by a lot of people. I don't know if it's a classic case of not being taken as seriously and therefore it's a women's thing, or a lot of women are prominent in it, therefore we don't take it as seriously. Have you ever been made to doubt your abilities or your place in a music environment because of your gender, or in a way that you perceive to be because of your gender?
Aside from the one show we had with that sound tech dude where he was a bit of a dick, I've never really had that. One of the first show we played in Cheltenham, the guy lifted the amplifier up without me knowing he was going to lift it, but I think that was just because it was loud and he didn't hear me say what. So he just kind of went, "Can you grab this other side?" And I said, "Yeah." And he lifted it, and he said, "Lift," and I said, "What?" And he lifted it, and then it made my back go. But I don't think that was to do with gender. I think that was just because of the fact
it's just loud, isn't it?
Because he was right by a speaker. And I said, "What?" And he was just like, I'm like, look at. But I mean, aside from that, most of the people we have are really welcoming. No one's ever been a dick. No one's ever been horrible. The only guy we had was that sound tech dude who was just a bit of an asshole in general.
Like I said, like I would have just let it go, but he did treat the girls noticeably differently than the boys. So
yeah, exactly. But aside from that,
it has to be sexism, love.
Nah. All right, hens.
Oh, hens. I think we've been quite fortunate, actually, and I think it's partly just down to our generation just being more chill about that stuff, and generations around us, and also just, you know, society as a whole is a bit better than it was when it comes to that shit. And also when you just go in and like are confident and, you know, you just do what you're going to do what you came here to do.
It changes people's opinions of you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, first show we had, the dude was like, really like, "Oh, you guys are just whatever, it's your first show." And then afterwards he was like, "I've never seen an opening band bring that many people." And we were like, "Don't doubt us."
Well, as well, I remember what was the headliner band? Fuck, what are they called? Anyway, they said that they were really impressed that we were that type for our first show. And, you know, that was nothing to do with gender. They were just like, "Oh, wow," like they played their first show and they sounded good. Like, yeah. And it was nice that they gave us that shout out.
Definitely.
So the last thing to talk about, what do you feel is the importance of things like shows or festivals or blogs that make an effort to showcase female and LGBT talent that might not usually get considered or booked or given the time of day?
See, I think it's really important to give everyone, regardless of their gender or sexual orientation, the same amount of representation that they deserve, because everyone is human, everyone has a heart and a personality and a passion, and we're all part of the same community. So everyone should have a chance to be represented fairly, and as long as they're not being a dick and they're not being horrible to you or disrespecting anyone, then fine. Like, so what? It's let them do what you want. So it is just a case of everyone deserves to be done. You know, everyone deserves to be represented fairly.
Yeah.
Because we've all got the same passion as you.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it needs to be considered that, you know, a lot of the straight white male cis people in general are more likely to be represented and are more likely to get these opportunities. So I do think it's important that there are people out there looking out for the interests of the people who might get overlooked. But I agree, like, ideally, if everybody could have the same representation and everybody get treated like with that same consideration, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think in the meantime, while there are people who aren't willing to give some of those more minority groups a chance, whether that be, you know, something they don't consider, or, you know, active malicious bigotry, I guess, there does need to be some kind of, I don't know, emphasis on diversity, which,
yeah, for sure,
it should just be something that's natural. But, you know,
it should just be a sad thing.
While it isn't, you kind of have to give it that extra attention.
Yeah.
Right, so I know you have to go, so I'm going to wrap this up. So it was great talking to you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your thoughts. There's nothing to promo. I mean, it's us. It's down and out. That's the promo.
If you did want to speak to me personally, it is just at DNO Char, DNO_Char on Instagram. But you can find me on the Bands page anyway. So
yeah, well, I can link your socials in the description if you want.
Yeah, go for that. Because if you want to hit me up about anything, music, ADHD, I'm happy to talk to you. So yeah,
that'd be great. Cool. Well, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy your haircut.